The ground beneath your feet feels pretty solid, right? Stable. But what if I told you it's not solid at all? That it's actually a giant slow-motion conveyor belt, constantly creating, destroying, and reshaping itself? Well, today, we're going to dig deep into the geosphere and uncover the secrets of our planet's living, breathing rock.
Oh, and just a heads up, this is part 3 of our 20-part series, An Introduction to Earth Sciences for Everyone, brought to you by Virtualization Options LLC. Okay, with that said, let's get back to the rocks.
I just love this quote. It perfectly captures what we're talking about. Every single rock, every cliff face, every grain of sand tells a story. And today, we're going to learn how to read that story, to uncover the epic tale of our planet's past, its present, and even its future. So, here's our game plan. First, we'll tackle the geosphere itself, what it is, and why it matters. Then, we'll zoom in on its fundamental building blocks. After that, we're going to uncover the colossal engine that's constantly reshaping our world. And finally, we'll see what happens when that engine really revs up.
All right, let's jump right into section 1, our solid moving Earth. So first question, what exactly is the geosphere? Well, it's a whole lot more than just the land we can see. See, the geosphere isn't just the ground we walk on. Nope. It's the soil in your backyard, it's the bedrock our cities are built on, it's the massive mantle flowing like super thick honey deep beneath us, and it's the blazing hot iron core right at the heart of our planet. It's the whole rocky shebang.
And what's really wild is that the geosphere doesn't exist in a vacuum. It's in this constant dance with the atmosphere, the air, the hydrosphere, which is all the water, and the biosphere, which is all life. Think about it. Rain weathers rocks, volcanoes change the air, and life itself literally shapes the land. It's all connected.
Okay, on to section 2, Earth's building blocks. To really get a handle on the big picture, we're talking mountains and whole continents, we've got to start with the small stuff.
And that small stuff is minerals. The best way to think about them is like the alphabet of geology. Just like letters form words, minerals are the basic components that combine to form all the different types of rocks. Every mineral, from a simple grain of quartz to a brilliant diamond, has its own unique chemical recipe and a perfectly ordered internal structure. So let's start making some words with our mineral letters. First up, we have igneous rock, which literally means born from fire. Anytime molten rock from deep inside the earth cools down and hardens, either way down underground or erupting from a volcano, you get igneous rock. We're talking about things like the granite in a kitchen countertop or the dark volcanic basalt that makes up the ocean floor. Next up, we have sedimentary rocks. I like to call these Earth's history books. They're formed from tiny bits and pieces of older rocks, shells, and organic matter that settle down in layers and get squished together over millions of years. And this is where we find fossils, giving us these incredible snapshots of ancient life. And our third and final type is metamorphic rock. The name itself means to change form. You can take any rock, igneous, sedimentary, whatever, and bury it deep within the earth, subjecting it to incredible heat and pressure. It doesn't actually melt, but it cooks, and its minerals reorganize into something totally new. This is how limestone turns into marble. Okay, now here is where it all comes together and gets really cool. These 3 rock types aren't separate things. They're all connected in what we call the rock cycle. It's basically Earth's ultimate recycling program. And igneous rock can be weathered down into sediment, which becomes a sedimentary rock. That rock can get buried and transformed into a metamorphic rock, and that metamorphic rock can even melt back into magma to start the whole cycle all over again. It's a never-ending journey, playing out over millions and millions of years. Okay, section 3, the Great Earth Shaper. So what's the engine driving all this change? What force is powerful enough to build mountains and literally move continents? Well, the answer is one of the most important ideas in all of science, plate tectonics. The basic idea is actually pretty simple. The Earth's crust isn't one solid shell. Instead, it's broken up into a bunch of enormous pieces, kind of like a giant jigsaw puzzle. And these plates are slowly but constantly drifting across the planet's surface, floating on a layer of hot, semi-solid rock just beneath them. And it's where these plates meet that all the action happens. At what we call divergent boundaries, they pull apart, and new crust is born. At convergent boundaries, they smash together, thrusting up huge mountain ranges or forcing one plate to dive under the other. And at transform boundaries, they just grind sideways past each other. Now, you might be wondering,
how do we know any of this is actually happening? Well, the evidence is overwhelming. We've got continents that look like they fit together perfectly, identical fossils and rocks found oceans apart, and today we can actually measure the movement in real time, just a few centimeters a year with super precise GPS.
And that brings us to our final section, when the Earth moves. This is where that slow, quiet theory of plate tectonics becomes loud, dramatic, and sometimes incredibly dangerous. Earthquakes are pretty much the violent consequence of those tectonic plates getting stuck. As they grind past each other, friction can cause them to lock up. For years, decades, sometimes even centuries, the stress just builds and builds, until finally, the rocks just can't take it anymore. They snap, lurching forward and releasing all that pent-up energy in a single, devastating moment.
And the amount of energy we're talking about is just staggering. On the magnitude scale, every time you go up one whole number, it's not just a little bit stronger. No, it represents about 32 times more energy being released. That's the difference between a small tremor you barely feel and a catastrophe that can level a city. Plate boundaries are also home to most of the world's volcanoes. And a volcano's personality, you could say, depends entirely on its magma. You've got shield volcanoes, like the ones in Hawaii, with runny, fluid lava that creates these broad, gentle slopes. But then you have stratovolcanoes, like Mount Fuji, with thick, sticky magma that traps gas, leading to steep cones and really violent explosive eruptions.
And you can literally see the difference right here. On one side, you have that low, broad shield volcano with lava that flows kind of like a river. On the other, you have that iconic, steep, and potentially explosive stratovolcano. Their very shape tells you the story of their power. So, if there's one thing to take away from all this, it's that our planet is alive. The ground that seems so solid is in constant motion, recycling itself and reshaping our world. Which leaves us with one final thought. The ground beneath you is moving right now at about the same speed your fingernails grow. So, where do you think today's continents will end up in another 50 million years?